Good morning. Some bad news. We're running out of oil and gas. Everyone knows this. Here's President Carter, nearly 50 years ago, saying the U.S. cannot possibly meet our own demand. It's not just Jimmy Carter. Here is Lee Raymond in 2007 saying there's no more gas to be found in the U.S. We have to build the Arctic pipeline. This is the head of ExxonMobil, pretty sophisticated company. They didn't see the shale revolution coming. And what has happened? This is since 2005, so just 2 years before Lee Raymond made his claim, right? We're running out of, our gas production has peaked. In 2005, he says this in 2007, in 2005, production was about 18 trillion cubic feet per year. It's now more than doubled. It's incredible. This is the biggest expansion when you include oil production due to the shale revolution. This is the biggest increase in oil and gas production, biggest increase in energy production in world history. I mean, and there's no second place. This has been a revolution indeed of enormous scale. And it has changed the U.S. from a prospective LNG importer to a massive LNG exporter, per my friend Anas Al-Haji's discussion. So we've had this huge increase in production. We've also seen an increase in consumption, now at about 33 TCF a year. So our production has doubled, consumption has gone up by 50% over that same time period. And I want to be clear, one of the reasons the U.S. economy, I was in Chile last October, and there was an Argentinian economist there. He lives in New York, but he was talking about the global economy, and he was saying, it's just stunning how resilient the U.S. economy has been. And one of the key reasons for the resilience of the U.S. economy is that our energy is cheaper than pretty much any other country in the world. And natural gas, low-cost natural gas, is a key part of the economic resilience of the United States. In fact, the U.S. is a natural gas superpower. I've shown this slide many times. I still am kind of stunned by it when I present it, because the U.S. is now producing more gas than Canada, China, Iran, Norway, and Qatar combined. This is denominated in exajoules. An exajoule is roughly equal to 1 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. It's an SI unit, but the denominator here is the same. The comparison is the same. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got in talking about numbers and presenting was from Edward Tufte, who said, when you give people a number, give them something to compare it to. Give them a metric that they're familiar with. So this comparison of the United States relative to Canada, I mean, it's truly incredible, isn't it? And I could show you another slide. Anas and Mr. Honig talked about the Permian Basin. The amount of gas that's coming out of the Permian Basin as associated gas is around 24 billion cubic feet a day. By itself, the Permian Basin in the United States is outproducing Canada. There's not a single gas rig running in the Permian, but I digress. So what's happening? Where is this gas going? A lot of it is going into the power sector. In fact, the power burn is the biggest consumer of gas in the United States now. Electricity generation in the U.S. is critically dependent on natural gas flows. 43.3%, a record now of U.S. electricity is produced from gas-fired power plants. I'm pro-natural gas, I'm pro-nuclear. I am concerned that the U.S. grid is becoming too dependent on a single fuel, and that's just-in-time natural gas. Okay, so I've set the table here for what is happening and demand. We also are able to do this because we have the largest pipeline network in the world, by far. Why in so many developing countries is gas production relatively low? They don't have this pipeline network, which we have developed now over the course of the last century. It's truly incredible. By the way, just as an aside, I'm speaking in Florida this summer. I was just there last month, in fact, in Orlando. About 80% of all the electricity in Florida is produced from burning natural gas. Look at that, how vulnerable Florida is potentially to any pipeline disruption from an infrastructure standpoint. right? They are a peninsula that is heavily dependent on imported gas. They don't produce any of their own gas, and Florida is more dependent on gas than any other state in the country. That's a little footnote, but I like showing this slide because it gives you an idea of the pipeline network, but also it shows, I mean, look at the Gulf Coast, Louisiana and Texas, just incredible. Amount of interstate and intrastate pipelines and the density of the pipeline networks. And also, I'm from Oklahoma, in western Oklahoma around Cushing well, that's not Cushing. Western Oklahoma is more oil and gas, but nevertheless, massive investments in infrastructure in the United States, pipeline infrastructure that can't be replicated. And that is a key point. Second, the U.S. has a price advantage over natural gas over the rest of the world, and it's one of at least 3x. And I see many of you taking photos. Happy to share these slides with you. Send me an email, robert@robertbryce.com. I'll send you the PDF. Happy to give it to you. No problem. So this is from March 27th. Debbie Osborne asked me to get the slides to her last week, so I did. It has changed a little bit. I don't know what Henry's at today, 410, 411. And Austin, do you know that number off your top of your head? It's a little over $4, right? Something like that. Relatively small change, but nevertheless, the point is obvious. The U.S. is incredibly advantaged when it comes to the cost of energy because of the shale revolution. Our gas is 3 times cheaper than it is at TTF. TTF is the Dutch trading hub. That is their equivalent of the Henry Hub. The Henry Hub is in Louisiana. That is Anas talked about Cushing and Brent. This is the marker, the price marker in the United States, around which a lot of gas, not all gas, but around which a lot of gas is priced. TTF is in Holland, and JKM is the LNG price delivered into Asia, the Japan-Korea marker, and so that's the price per MMBTU or gigajoule. You use your SI units if you like. The U.S. is now the world's biggest LNG exporter. This is a screen grab from the EIA just a few weeks ago. We're now exporting roughly 12 BCF a day. That's greater than all of the gas production in Saudi Arabia, by the way. Just again, to give you a metric of comparison. What is the relative comparison? What is the relative metric that puts this into context? It's incredible, isn't it? Just the scale now of U.S. LNG export that went from 2016 to 2020 from zero in 2016 to now the biggest LNG exporter in the world. That is stunning, and it's indicative of how quickly the markets and capital in the United States can respond to this change in supply. Further, LNG export capacity, this is an EIA screen grab with my comments there, expected to double, predicted to double now by 2028. I thought Anas's point about steel is critically important. I've talked to some friends who are in the LNG trade trying to build LNG or are building LNG export facilities. The steel tariffs are a big problem. And it's not just the tariffs, it's the availability of high quality steel. So will all of this capacity be built? I think that's an even money bet, depending on what happens with the tariffs, depending on how quickly U.S. industry can respond. But this doubling of export capacity just in the next 3 years, again, is absolutely, to use a Britishism, gobsmacking. It's just incredible how quickly the market has changed when it comes to natural gas supplies in the U.S., especially since 2007, when the president and CEO and chairman of ExxonMobil said, there's no more gas in the United States. An incredible turn of events from a historical basis. So what else is important? Now, U.S. LNG is absolutely critical to Europe's energy security. I need to update this, but EIA's own numbers through 2023, the 3rd consecutive year, I'm sure it's going to be the 4th consecutive year. I was in London in February. Quick anecdote. I'm not shy. I'm a reporter, right? I'm not afraid to ask questions. I went in shop owners, restaurants, and asked people, as I was going around London, we were there for 10 days, tell me about your energy bill. Every one of them said it had doubled in the last 4 years. The last night we were there, we went to a pub around the corner from our hotel near Trafalgar Square. There was a woman behind the bar, and I asked her, she was in her 20s. I said, tell me what's going on with you and your energy costs. And she said, well, we don't shower at home anymore. I said, what? She said, we don't shower at home. We go to the gym to shower because it costs so much to heat the water at home. Now, one anecdote, but indicative of what is happening now in Britain. They've cut their own throats. They've committed economic suicide, the same with the Germans. If I were a better person, a better Christian, I might feel sorry for them. I don't. Hope you like it in the ditch. You drove yourself straight into it, proudly so. The Germans are going to spend $1 trillion on the energy venda, and they've just wrecked their economy. Now, Mr. Honig said their stock market is performing well. I don't know why, but their automotive sector is declining. They are in deep, deep, deep trouble. So the caption for my presentation was on price and volume. So here's why you shouldn't bet on prices. In real terms, they're falling. Now, again, I'm citing the Henry Hub price from now about 10 days ago, 384, so it's about $4. But nevertheless, the trend line, when you talk in real terms, is downward. And this proves that Julian Simon had it right? Over the long term, in general, commodities get cheaper. Now, Jonathan Honig made some good points about precious metals. Is that different? Are we going to see something change now with copper? Maybe. And we're going to have a panel discussion or a little chat about that, and I'll maybe take a little bit further discussion of copper during that time. But nevertheless, prices are volatile. And I debate my brother Wally, who I love dearly. He's a CPA, and he says he's very bullish on gas prices. And I said, well, okay, I get it. But these numbers keep coming back showing that, in fact, it continues to get cheaper. And my advice to you is don't bet against the drill bit. The U.S. gas sector now is the gas producers producing record amounts of gas with fewer rigs than ever. It's just an incredible productivity story. So bet on the volumes. Don't bet on the price, bet on the volumes. Now, it's funny hearing Aaron talk about how many of the presenters over the last few days scrambled to redo their presentations. I didn't. I thought, well, I didn't need to. Why? Because I'm a simple guy. I'm not a financial genius. I'm a reporter. I'm not a financial guy, but when I look at the marketplace and I think, well, what makes sense to me from just a very simple kind of approach to the marketplace, and where I'm not trading a lot, I'm just investing for the long term, the pipelines make sense. And I've been thinking, well, how do you talk about a wide moat around a pipeline? You can't build a moat around a pipeline just because you can't build more pipelines effectively, right? The pipelines that are in place have what is in effect a virtual monopoly essential monopoly on that area in which they operate, because they can't be duplicated. And it's extremely hard now to build new pipelines. So these are the reasons. I won't read these to you, but I've already mentioned 43% of our power now is coming from gas-fired power plants. This is the midstream value chain. This is a graphic from Enterprise Products Partners, just to give you an idea of the processing, the transportation, fractionation, which is where they separate out the NGLs, butane, propane, ethane, et cetera, from the natural gas to then sell the dry gas and then sell the NGLs, particularly propane. The U.S. is now exporting about 2 million barrels a day of propane into the global market. And the rest of it, marine terminals, et cetera. AI is going to be fueled by natural gas. There's simply no doubt about it. There is no way that these big tech companies, for all of their bragging for years, Google and Amazon and the rest of them talking about, wind and solar, wind and solar, wind and solar. Now all of a sudden they've changed their tune because of AI. And what are they doing? They're buying as much gas as they can possibly buy. They're buying as much capacity as they can possibly buy. I'll point you to this Williams deal. I'm from Tulsa. My nephew was involved in this deal. Very proud of him. Entergy and is doing this big deal with Meta in Louisiana, 2.2 gigawatts. Kinder Morgan. Crusoe is a company that is buying gas and building infrastructure. This is self-explanatory. Energy Transfer, this deal was just done a few days ago. And I'll point you to, if you want to take a deep dive, Energy Transfer's recent investor report. This little squib about request to connect to 70 data centers, that's in their latest investor presentation, Energy Transfer, which to me gives you an indication of just how much demand there is potentially from new data centers and AI. This is S&P Global, a slide from their latest, it was a presentation last month on increased demand. They're expecting 900 gigawatts of new generation capacity to be built in the US in the next 15 years, and it includes 100 gigawatts of new gas capacity. So cut to the chase here. What is my takeaway? I liked what Mr. Honig had to say about compounding, about, and this is my approach. It's a very simple approach. I travel a lot, I write a lot, I speak a lot. I don't have a lot of time to manage my investments, so I want to get dividends. I'm a simple guy. I put my money on the table, you pay me a little cash back. That model I really understand. So here are the companies these are the dominant pipeline companies in America. Energy Transfer, just a massive footprint, 100 facilities, 130,000 pipeline miles. Enbridge, of course, is a Canadian company. All of these, I think, are interesting. It's also interesting now, given the downturn in the market, that when I made this slide, this was 10 days ago, the yield on Energy Transfer was less than 7%. It's now slightly over 8% due to the drop in the market. And I think that's a very interesting outcome, right? So, and also you can look at these companies and beware. There's a difference. Some are C corps, some are MLPs. The MLPs have some tax advantage, but to Mr. Honig's point about compounding, I think that's a pretty compelling value play, particularly given the uncertainty now in the marketplace. I'll conclude. Energy security is national security. These are my watchwords. These are my phrases, the ones that I'm willing to die on this hill any day of the week. We need more energy realism because energy realism is energy humanism. Energy security is national security. We have to make sure we maintain abundant, reliable sources of energy and power in America because that is the fundamental foundation of our economy. And we can look at Australia, at Germany, at California, at Britain, to see what happens when energy policy goes the wrong way, and it has these massive effects on the economy, and particularly a regressive impact on the poor. And to me, that is just, I find that anathema. I can't stand it. These ideas of these people who claim, we need to make energy more expensive. Expensive energy is the enemy of the poor. Expensive energy is the enemy of the poor. And yet there is a cadre, a very powerful cadre in the United States of NGOs, climate NGOs, who want that actual outcome. Well, I don't want that outcome. I believe cheap, abundant, reliable energy is the key foundation to bringing people out of the dark and into modern life. This is my new docuseries. It's a 5-part docuseries that came out 15 months ago. It's now been seen over 3 million times on YouTube. You can find it at juicetheseries.com. Anas, did I mention juicetheseries.com? I hope I mentioned juicetheseries.com. It's free. It's a 5-part docuseries. I'm super proud of it. My colleague Tyson Culver did a great job. Each segment is about 20 minutes. I have 3 kids, all of whom I'm very proud. I have 6 books. I have written twice as many books as I have children. This is my latest book, A Question of Power, Electricity, and the Wealth of Nations. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everyone you know. You don't have to read it. You just have to buy it. And if you buy it on your Kindle, I make a better royalty, so help me out. I'm on Substack, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on TikTok. Yeah, oh, you bet I'm on TikTok. Heck yeah. I'm on Instagram. I'm easy to find on the interweb. I write now on Substack almost exclusively, robertbryce.substack.com, although I will have a piece in the New York Post next week. I'm on Twitter at PowerHungry. I'll stop there. Thank you very kindly. I've stunned them into silence, Aaron. Yes, sir.
What's your take on the development of nuclear energy and these small reactors and the role they may play in this energy crisis?
Sure. I'm adamantly pro-nuclear. I've been saying the same thing for 15 years, end-to-end natural gas to nuclear. This is the way forward if we're serious about decarbonization. I think it's the way forward regardless of whether you care about climate change at all. We need nuclear power, more nuclear in the United States for energy security. We're becoming too dependent on a single fuel in the electricity sector, and that's natural gas. I'm pro-natural gas, but we're now closing our coal plants, and that's going to increase our reliance on natural gas. So from an energy security standpoint, from a national security standpoint, we need more nuclear. Now, is it going to be SMR, small modular reactors, or the gigawatt scale? I don't know. I've written about this extensively on my Substack, robertbryce.substack.com. Did I mention robertbryce.substack.com? There are now 42 different companies trying to commercialize small modular reactors, 42 of them. And some of them are publicly traded, NuScale Power, Oklo, Nano Nuclear. These are, startups, and they're massively overvalued. They have no revenue. And I wrote about NuScale first. It trades under the ticker SMR. I wrote about that company 16 years ago. They still haven't built a reactor. So I'm very hopeful and believe clearly that we need more nuclear energy, but I'm very sober about it because the regulatory, capital, fuel problem, and the waste issues. So I'm hopeful, and I'm hopeful that the Trump administration and Chris Wright can move the ball forward because we desperately need forward momentum. But if I were going to bet on new nuclear, I'd bet on Western Europe first before the U.S. because nat gas there is 3 times more costly, and that's a key economic driver. In the U.S. right now, there's a lot of political risk for new nuclear, very little political risk for natural gas. And go ahead.
Well, I see some reports that China and Russia have developed these small nuclear reactors. We don't know anything about the operating conditions and how the waste and the safety and so forth.
Well, you're right. Rosatom, the Russian state-owned company, has deployed, in fact, a ship-based SMR in Siberia, in Pivek. And that's an incredible technology. They took submarine and icebreaker technology, put it on a barge, essentially, and docked it in Siberia. I think it's 60 megawatts. So, but those are state-backed companies. Regarding China, yes, China is building more nuclear capacity than any other country in the world, by far, about 30 gigawatts. They're also building over 200 gigawatts of new coal. Not permitted, not talked about, not in blueprint stage, under construction. Quick fact for you, by the time that coal capacity in China is completed, China will have nearly 1.4 terawatts, 1.3 million megawatts of coal-fired capacity. Just China's coal-fired capacity will be equal to the size of the entire electric grid in the US. Coal, oil, natural gas, hydro, solar, wind, everything. So this idea that the US is going to solve the global climate challenge is just flat wrong. It's a mathematical. Say again? Fantasyland. Okay, thank you. I was looking for some numerical, physical, I don't know. Yeah, Fantasyland works. Thank you kindly. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Just curious how you think solar fits into our future energy needs.
Well, solar is going to grow, and I have 8.5 kilowatts of solar on the roof of my house. So why did I put 8.5 kilowatts of solar on the roof of my house? I got 3 different subsidies. Hello? So let me be clear. I'm opposed to all subsidies unless I'm getting them. And that's the driver behind solar. Now, a key political battle facing Trump now, and I have very mixed feelings about Trump and the Trump administration. I fear that he's frittering away a lot of political capital with this tariff stuff, and that's going to limit his ability to reform the investment tax credit and production tax credit. And the ITC and PTC are the drivers behind solar, wind, and batteries. But that's the political statement. The physics statement, solar has 10 times the power density of wind. So what we're seeing is now companies that were pushing a lot of wind because of the backlash, which I've written about repeatedly, the rural backlash against wind and now increasingly solar, that the wind developers are moving towards solar. But I would also caution that 2 things. One, almost all that solar capacity, whether it's the silicon wafers or the actual panel production, is coming from China. And second, it's that this is a land use play. And what I maintain the global renewable rejection database, which you can find on my website, robertbryce.com. There have been 12 rejections of solar projects in Britain since January 1st of this year. So it's all about land use. Land use and energy policy, land use policy, energy policy, 2 sides of the same coin. So there are natural limits on what solar can do, but solar is going to continue to grow. Okay, Aaron, I think I'm done. Thank you all very much.